good morning, everyone. Looks like we've got a pretty full house right now, so I'm going to kick things off. This is Tommy Johnson from the Portland Regional Chamber of Commerce. Good morning, and thank you for all for joining us today for another of our monthly installments of Growth Basics for Business, sponsored by Eaton Peabody. Just a couple of housekeeping things today as your people are beginning to join the webinar. If you are here for the value of coaching, you've found the right place. So thank you for those of you that made the switch. We changed the parameters a little bit yesterday, but we found that this is going to be a little more conducive to the presentation and some of the interaction that we're going to do. Before I get into the presentation, I do want to introduce our sponsor for the Growth Basics for Business series. Eaton Peabody is the firm that has been the sponsor of this seminar series for the past couple years. And I'd like to introduce Nate Levesque, Marketing Manager, to say a few words.
All right. Thank you, Tommy. As you mentioned, I'm Nate Levesque, the Marketing Manager for Eaton Peabody. I want to thank everyone for taking the time to join us today. We've been sponsoring this event for about 2 years now, and I personally look forward to each of these every single month. Eaton Peabody is a Maine-based law firm with more than 50 attorneys serving Maine clients from offices in Augusta, Bangor, Brunswick, Ellsworth, and most recently Portland. You can find us across the street from the police station on 100 Middle Street. We provide legal services to a number of small businesses throughout the state, assisting with everything from employment issues, benefits, intellectual property, and even finding financing. To learn more about us, visit our website, eatonpeabody.com, or just follow us on Facebook. Thank you. Back to you, Tommy.
Thank you, Nate. And when we do get back to the new normal and we do these events live, I will say that Nate provides some of the best treats, the best morning treats you're ever going to have. So if only for the treats, I would encourage you to come out to these monthly seminars over at Eaton Peabody once we get back to the new normal. But without further ado, I wanted to introduce our 4 esteemed presenters today. I'll try to be quick, but we've got 4 folks from the Maine Coaches Connection. And I will give you a quick background on some of their bio. We've got Greg McHugh, and Greg's an executive coach in Portland. He provides management consulting, training and development services, and leadership and executive coaching to clients nationwide. His clients include small and medium-sized businesses, a university system, as well as state government agencies here in Maine. He's a board member of the International Coach Federation, the New England chapter, and the Maine Coaches Connection. Welcome, Greg. We've also got Carrie Walls. Carrie's unique background in education, small business, and counseling psychology, combined with her experience as a successful CEO, fuels her approach to coaching high-performance leaders. She specializes in working with businesses and partnerships to create alignment, helping small businesses in the 750,000 plus range move out of the quote-unquote mom and pop orientation to take their company to the next level. We also have Janet Eastman. Janet is the founding partner in the Eastman and Guare consulting firm, which has been providing organizational development services and executive coaching to businesses and nonprofits for 30 years. Her coaching practice focuses on the challenges and development needs of leaders and managers in such areas as improving results, managing change, building cultures of engaged employees, and broadening business perspectives. And last, and certainly not least, we have Jamie Morin. Jamie's a PhD and a PCC and is the president of Synchrony Point Coaching and Consulting, which provides leadership development and executive coaching services. She also coaches physicians to build resilience, increase well-being, and decrease burnout. Jamie is on the faculty of the Gestalt International Study Center and the Kennebec Leadership Institute, and a proud volunteer for the Olympia Snow Women's Leadership Institute. And with that, I'll turn it over to Jamie.
Thank you, Tommy. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for being with us today. As Tommy mentioned, the 4 of us are part of an organization called the Maine Coaches Connection. The Maine Coaches Connection is a satellite organization of the International Coach Federation of New England, which itself is a chapter of the International Coaching Federation. And that's the largest organization of coaches in the world. It's the body that oversees accreditation and certification, and its purpose often is to help coaches with professional development, to create connections between coaching, and to support and advance the profession of coaching. And here in Maine, many of us got a little tired of driving to Boston years ago to get additional education and training. And so we started this little organization, and it's been going now for, I think, around 8 years. And it's a loose confederation of coaches around the state. There are probably 120 or so of us that connect on a regular basis. And when the pandemic happened, we started connecting on Zoom, as everyone did, and we started finding ways to support one another and to talk about how we could support the community. And one of the things that came out of that, I think, Greg, if you go to the next slide. Oh gosh, apologies for not remembering to put this in, but we would love to know a little bit about who's with us today. So if you would please just add into the chat box, what kind of a business are you involved with? And what were you hoping to learn or take away from this session when you signed up today? And that will help all of us tailor our remarks. So we'd appreciate it if you could engage with us that way. And if you've got questions as we're working through the presentation this morning, please do enter them into the chat box. Or if you have something that you really want to get response to, use the raise hand icon and I'll unmute you and pull you into the conversation. And we will have a section at the end of this for Q&A where we can use the chat box and the raise hand function as well, but we'd love for this to be interactive. So tell us a little bit about your business, what kind of business you're in, and what you hope to take away from today. Apologies, something just kicked off a poll. I think I hit a button. Greg, next slide. So, as I say, the coaches here in Maine connected to support one another, but then we started talking about what a significant impact the pandemic is having on the state, on the country, on the world, and on businesses. And we wanted to find a way to support business owners and business leaders, especially in small businesses that may not have internal organizational development resources. And so we recruited more than 24 coaches from our organization who are willing to donate their time to help business leaders work through challenges that have come up over the last few months. And so for those of you that may not know what coaching is, we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about what that looks like, what you could expect from it, how it might be helpful to you, and then how to get connected to a coach. So with that, I am going to launch the first poll. We'll be using a few polls during this process. Actually, sorry about that. We reordered a few slides at the very beginning of this session this morning, and I'm a little out of sync here.
Sorry about that.
No worries. So what we'd really like to know now is in what way COVID-19 is affecting you and your team, and in what ways might you benefit from having some additional support from coaches who would like to volunteer some time. So again, if you would enter that into the chat box. Hi, Phil Baker. Sharpening your leadership skills shouldn't be a problem at all. And just let us know how COVID is affecting your team. And while people are entering those answers into the chat box, I'm seeing staff energy level, productivity has fallen off, lack of motivation. Things are slow, really quiet, working remotely, work share schedule, reduced hours. So those are some of the things we're hearing about. Yep. These are things that coaching may be able to help with. And I'm going to turn things over to Greg now. And he'll be far more organized than I just was. And he will talk with you about coaching and the process of it.
Yeah, thanks, Jamie. Good morning, everybody. And thanks for all those answers to the questions. I'm really, we're going to cover the difference between coaching and mentoring, talk about that a little bit. And but I'm glad to see you all using the chat function in the slides. So my name is Greg McHugh, and I'm in my 11th year as a certified coach. And as Tommy said, I've been doing some training and development work and some management consulting, especially around change management. And so employee engagement is obviously something that's a big thing that I'm seeing in the chat, but also something that I've been working on quite a bit. And I'm here to define coaching and the coaching process. So hopefully you guys can all see this slide, and I've got a definition here on the slide. And I just want to unpack that. Jamie mentioned the ICF, the International Coach Federation. And so that's where we get this definition. And really, I want to just talk sort of broadly about coaching. And we can get into more detailed Q&A at the end of the session. But it's really a relationship of equals. It truly is a partnership between a coach and a client. And, you know, even though clients often come to coaching looking for answers, really it's a partnership of equals. And so it's a wonderful and rare opportunity for a relationship to talk about the issues that are closest to you. It's about inspiring clients. It's about maximizing potential. What better space to be working in? Honestly, I think coaches love coaching as much as clients do. It's just a wonderful space for us to be in. It's about unlocking previously untapped sources of imagination, productivity, and leadership. And I love the way that sounds. It's so previously untapped. So it's really about you and what you know. It's what's inside. So it's about growth. It's about overcoming limiting beliefs. And truly, it's about what you know. So said differently, coaching is an opportunity to step back and work on the business, to work on yourself, to work smarter, not harder. And we'll get more into that. So we have a poll. Let's hear from you. Have any of you experienced professional coaching? Was it, did you, what was your experience? Go ahead and answer. This is an anonymous poll, and hopefully all of you will see it pop up on your screen. We're just curious to get some feedback about sort of who's here and what your experience level is.
And Greg, while people are looking at the poll, one of the questions that came up is, how do you know if you or your staff need coaching or training?
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a good question. Training, and so it's funny, do you want to answer these now, or do you want to hang on to these questions?
People are doing the poll, so this is a great time to answer
Yeah.
that.
So the coaching distinction is really, so training could be skill development, you know, sort of knowledge, skills, and abilities are the areas of training and development. And so oftentimes what we see, especially in executive coaching, is that they're trained out. They've got all the training that they could possibly have. They've read all the books, they've had the experiences, and what they need is a true partner in that moment to help them sort through different things that are going on, priorities, resources, emotions, all of the different things that are just really unique to their personal situation. So we'll get into kind of what the process looks like and help distinguish between coaching and mentoring, and we can talk about a need for training and development. But when you see, like, for example, you know, emerging leaders, or what we call aspiring leaders sometimes. So that's the space of training and development a little bit more than it would be coaching. So sometimes coaches make a distinction between executive coaching and leadership coaching. And so that could be one of those distinctions. So executive coaching could be more about leaving a legacy. It could be more about vision. It could be about courage, where leadership coaching might be around, you know, change management, empowering staff, you know, working as a team lead. So those leadership skills that might not be present. But here I would also encourage my fellow coaches, you know, feel free to jump in and let me know, you know, if you guys have something additional to say. I really, you know, want this to be an interactive experience for you guys and get your needs met. Okay, so how did we do on our poll? So
Okay. I'm going to end the polling now and share the results.
Awesome.
So you can see a little over half the group has not ever used a coach before, which is what we expected. And then for those that have, 35% of the group had used coaching, 24% found it extremely helpful, 12% somewhat helpful. Nobody said meh. It's good.
Meh.
Ah,
I like saying meh,
that's good.
but not about coaching. Well, that's
All right.
I love the not yet answer as well, because I'm glad to see people who haven't tried coaching are interested in learning more about that. Okay, cool. Thanks for.
And there were just a couple of other things that may have gone by in the chat that Janet or Carrie might want to pick up when they talk. And one is about remote coaching versus face-to-face. Any difference? Is it useful? And the other is about how do you find the right coach? So we can work those in as we go.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the process of coaching. So since there's a lot of new folks here, if you've never worked with a coach, it's completely tailored to your needs, your situation, your agenda, truly tailored. And it's important to notice that lasting change occurs over time. So it's important to give it time. It's why we're offering 3 sessions for our offer that Jamie mentioned at the beginning, and we'll come back to that. But we're not just offering 1 session for you to experience coaching, even though kind of what we call on the spot or laser coaching is useful for people working through problems, especially when they have experience working through issues with a coach and know how to use a coach. But here we're offering 3 sessions because really the important part of coaching is the work between the sessions. That's where the inquiries happen. That's where the challenges are accepted. And that's where the homework, or practice, if you will, of new skills, you're trying those things on and noticing what's working and what's not working and what's getting in the way. It's really it's a relationship built on connection, rapport, trust. The foundation of coaching is trust, and the spaciousness that happens with a coach and a client is really where the work can just really take flight. There's a lot of different coaching schools and approaches, and it's fun for coaches to kind of get to know different styles and approaches, but really the heart of coaching is active listening and powerful questions that challenge you. So through that, you'll find new ways of thinking, new ways of looking at issues or problem that you're working on, new perspectives. Another important tenet of coaching is really about deepening your learning and forwarding the action. And this is kind of, some people would say, a distinction of coaching. It's really about you getting to learn about what the issue is, learning about yourself, deepening the learning about what's really going on. And so coaches have a lot of experience in helping point to you to different ways of gathering that information and hearing feedback, but also making an action plan around changing behaviors. But it's really about getting into action. It's about getting the results that you demand from your work and in your life. Make sense? Any questions? Just feel free to throw things into the chat if you've got things you'd like to ask or discuss. So professional coaches, it's all about openness and curiosity, staying focused on your success. It's really a mindset. It's how a coach is trained to show up in service of your goals. It's about what you know. So here I just wanted to go back to coaching and mentoring. So coaching and mentoring often get lumped together. And sometimes, when you hire a mentor or, you have opportunity to use a mentor, even, so there's a lot of volunteer mentors through different programs and so on. It's really, a mentor is bringing what he or she knows. So that's how I make the distinction. It's what he or she knows. And that may be right on the money and just what you need at that particular time, especially around, skill building or knowledge that you don't have. But sometimes it isn't. And sometimes clients hire a coach to leverage, an experience, their experience in an industry or in a particular job function. So you often see like CEOs as coaches who are coaching other CEOs. So that's really understanding that role. In other cases, you might just want a fresh perspective. So really, you want somebody from a different industry or potentially a different function to really give you some of that different perspectives. So doing a fit interview with a potential coach is really a best practice when selecting a coach. So that's an important thing, and all coaches will do that for you. So that's important. So I mentioned training and development, but also I guess here I could also say that coaching isn't therapy. So we could get into that, but it isn't therapy, and professional coaches know when to time out and say this conversation is much bigger than the container of coaching. So that's what you can expect. And here's where it's a good time to talk about ethics. So professional coaches are held to a real and many seek certification with the ICF, as Jamie said. But confidentiality is really one of the key tenets of coaching. It's super important to maintaining trust in the relationship, but there are limits. And I'll just add that when coaches hear talk about fraud, waste, and abuse in the coaching, or when they hear about potential harm to yourself or to others, that's also where a coach will time out the coaching and make sure that their client gets the support and the help that they need. So let's get a taste of the coach approach, just a little bit here. I know it's early, okay? I know I have my coffee here, but I definitely haven't had enough coffee yet. But I wanted, when we were putting this together, we really wanted in a short period of time to try to give you a sense of a coach approach and what that might look like. So if you would, take out a piece of paper, and we're not asking you to share these answers, but it's an opportunity to dig a little bit deeper and think about what's important for you right now. So our question is, kind of our jumping off question is, if you could change one thing about your business, what would it be? So just take a minute, not in chat, just for you. An opportunity just to really think about what's important for you right now. So what might you want more of? More time, more balance, more resources, more energy, I don't know, more ideas? What? Maybe less of is another way to look at this. Less admin, less hassles, less uncertainty, less change, right? I mean, there are probably things you can't change right now. And I get that, we get that. But think of things that you really want to change, something you can really dig in on. And now try to imagine some improvement that might make that area, might improve that area. How might it improve your business? How might it change the work that you're doing? How might it change the way you're engaging your employees? How might it affect your life? So just sort of think about that, file that away. We're going to come back to that later in the presentation, and especially talk about some of the things you might need some help with as we remind you of the offer. Okay, so now I'd like to turn it over to my friend and colleague, Carrie Wells. Thanks, everybody. Carrie, you're on mute.
I'm unmuting. So I wanted to address a few things that I've seen in the chat box. So several of you wanted to know more about motivating and supporting your staff, and how I approach coaching, and I think probably a lot of us do, is relationship is it's the strongest, most important thing. The stronger your relationship is, the more you can work together and accomplish things. So that's why it's important. And one of the easiest way to build relationship is through listening. So the deeper you listen to people, the more you understand their situations. This is one of the most challenging business environments I've ever seen. So people are dealing with obstacles at home. I've had clients with a 2-year-old passing him back and forth between two people trying to keep their jobs. And so the more you can listen, understand, provide grace, and help them remove challenges and obstacles, everyone gets up in the morning to be effective and successful. So how could you help them remove any challenges they have? And the other thing I think is really important is be transparent as possible. Tell the truth about what's happening in the business without scaring them. So you're being transparent, but also providing hope. There are lots of great leadership examples out there right now, and some not great ones. So there's a lot to learn about how to motivate employees. And I think the other thing is creativity is needed now more than ever because so much has changed. I have a client who is a fabricator, and their event business went away in a day. And so they've had to pivot, be creative, listen to what are the concerns of their customers now, and adjust to that. So I just wanted to address how, because I know some of you, that wasn't really part of our presentation about motivating your staff, but I think it's super important. So we have an example here. This is a client of mine facing some really typical business challenges. Usually people start a business because they're effective in one area, and then they grow and get more successful. And so he's talking about how he isn't fulfilled anymore. He started the business to be successful, but now it's losing its allure, and he's not very excited about it. So if any of you have read the E-Myth or the E-Myth Revisited, it's a very typical business, famous classic business book, and that's where the expression I think comes from. How do you work on the business, not in the business? Most small business owners, and even as you get bigger, you're being reactive to what's coming at you all the time, and we often don't have time to step back. So this, he introduces himself, but he had his business, a little bit about him. He has a website that does affiliate sales. He does meticulous reviews on outdoor equipment for backpacking, and really well researched, really well written. And he makes his money through affiliate sales through REI and Amazon. So go ahead, Greg, and play the.
Okay. Okay, I'm with you. New. Okay. Okay, everybody can see the video? All right.
Hi, this is Carrie and Dave Collins from Clever Hiker. Hello. Dave is a client of mine for a few months, and first I just wanted to ask him, where were you when we started? Like, why did you reach out for some assistance?
I was feeling very depressed, I'd say, in my just like general day-to-day with work, feeling unfulfilled, having a hard time being productive, and just I needed a boost. I needed some help. I needed some planning for, this business that I built up over many years, but was having a lot of stress and anxiety about it, and needed some help on kind of focusing on, how to move it forward.
Right. And this is a person dedicated to the outdoors. So he was finding himself in front of a computer way too often for too long, right?
Yes, lots of computer time.
Yeah. So a few months later, what progress have you made? What results have you made? What's different for you?
It's actually been quite remarkable. My enjoyment level with work has really increased a lot, and I'd say that I'm just feeling way more organized in the business and getting a lot more fulfillment out of it. Been able to bring on a couple of new employees, and productivity has been really skyrocketing. Our sales this year, we're having our best year ever. And
that's great.
Yeah, and feeling really good about it. And just in general, I think the weekly accountability and having someone to talk to who understands the issues that I'm going through has been really incredibly helpful for me.
That's great. Thank you. It's been a pleasure supporting you.
Yeah, it's been great working with you.
All right.
So coaching often works both on your success and your fulfillment. So Dave is a great example of how his fulfillment increased. We actually didn't talk about sales. I often talk about sales with people, but we never talked about sales. But because his fulfillment went up, he got more creative. And how his sales went up, he added this little thing on top of all the pages, like why you can trust us. And that had his sales go way up. So when your fulfillment is up, you have more energy, you have more creativity, which is needed now a lot. So go ahead to the next slide. So this relates to smaller businesses, and I know some of you are in bigger organizations as well. So you have the CEO or the owner on top, but then you have all the things you're juggling beneath. And so you have sales and marketing, you have the operations or production, or that's often in small businesses where you produce the revenue. So, and then there's financial management, there's HR and staff. You may have that, you may not. There's administrative, all those emails coming in. And then there's business of the business. Business of the business is where you step back, maybe you write a business plan, or you look at your targets and see if you're on track or off track. So often people start a business because they're really good at the skill they have, such as maybe being a doctor, a chiropractor, an attorney, whatever it is they're good at. But then all of a sudden they're managing a business all over. So then they have, I mean, say for example, attorneys, they aren't usually developed in sales and marketing, but business development is part of their job often as they build their practices. So we tend to hang out when we start a business in the area we're good at, like an attorney would be spending time on working with clients and being an attorney. And then we try to do these other things around the sides, like or on the weekends, or when we have to get ready to file our taxes, we'll do some financial management. But the problem with that approach is you tend to have breakdowns in the area you're not paying attention to. So if, you know, often people get in a sales cycle where they'll get freaked out, they'll work on sales, they get too busy, they stop sales, their business goes down. So they set up kind of a roller coaster when they don't pay attention to that. So coaching helps you elevate yourself, and so you're managing the whole of it instead of running between different areas of accountability. And Dave's example is how he's developed this over 7 years, and he's really good at it. But often small businesses, when they reach a certain point and they're trying to, it's around that $1 million mark, they're trying to get out of that. And they don't know how to produce results through others. So that's a really important thing to learn how to do, because usually they delegate, they don't like how it's done, they make the person wrong who they delegated it to, and they grab it back. And then there's a lid on their business. They can only grow so far because they have to be everywhere in all those boxes. And bigger organizations, you have someone in charge of sales and marketing or operations. So you have a controller or CFO. You have people in charge of that, and then the owner or the head of the department is managing those things. So it's really important to step back, look at the business instead of just being reactive. And with this COVID-19, there's so much coming at us and so many changes. It's really hard to step out and look at a higher level. And if there are any questions, I think we have a poll. Like usually when people look at that areas, you might go, Greg, back to the air. Oh, well, they're right there too.
That one?
Where do you tend to hang out? Where do you spend most of your time in your business? And maybe be thinking about which areas do you ignore. Sometimes people ignore the financial and then they have a cash flow breakdown or something like that. And which areas would you like to, or you wish you spent more time on? So coaching can help you balance those, pay attention to all of them. Sometimes when a client's in front of me is the only time we spend on business of the business, but it's really important to step back and look at that perspective. Other questions or comments in the chat room or anything from other coaches?
Carrie, one of the things that came up earlier in the chat was, is there any real difference in taking advantage of coaching now when we have to work remotely?
As far as remote coaching face-to-face, I think it works just as well. I switched Portlands from Oregon to Maine, and so a lot of my business is still in Oregon, and I work remotely, and it's just as effective. It takes, you know, you can do it on Zoom or the phone, and just how we're all adjusting, we're finding some things that work even better right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in my business, I find that you have to be really intentional, pay lots of put all of your awareness on the other person, whether it's through their voice or through their voice and what you're seeing on the screen, and really work hard to build that relationship up front so that the work can progress effectively. But I don't find that coaching remotely is a barrier at all. And in fact, I think it actually is an opportunity because people don't have to drive. They don't have to, find conference rooms and things like that. It's just much more flexible. So I'm going to wrap up this poll.
That oftentimes people come into coaching thinking, well, how effective will it be if you're not sitting in front of me coaching me? And I've never really coached anyone that, after a couple sessions has said, wow, I'm surprised this really does work. So some of it is just an experience of it. And then everybody gets more comfortable.
Yeah. So I'm going to wrap up this polling, and I don't think it will surprise anyone to see that, the time spent today, the largest chunk tends to be on sales and marketing. And where they wish they could spend more of their time is in the business of the business, taking a higher level view, being more strategic. So I'm going to share those results.
And lots of times people don't like sales and marketing, especially sales. Sales has a bad name, like nobody wants to be a salesperson. So if you're spending a lot of time on sales and it's not your favorite thing and you really would just like to serve clients, there was a way to learn to sell through being authentic and not feeling like you're pushing snake oil, but it takes some practice.
Okay, I'll stop this share and turn it back over to you, Carrie.
Let's see. So there was our,
I think,
and now we're to Janet.
Okay. I think what you're looking at right now is you're looking at the outcomes. Now this, as you can see in the bottom right-hand corner, is a study that was done a few years back by our global coaching organization. And you'll see that right here is like 9 different outcomes that are listed. And they're quite different. They go all the way from communication skills, work-life balance, to improved business management strategies. And I think the first take on that for me is it just shows the variety of outcomes based on, as Greg had mentioned earlier, the customization and the personalization of the coaching process. So there's no set, this is what you're going to be working on. It's all driven by what the client wants, what the person coming to coaching is looking for. And it gets set up, and the leader is the person being coached. And it's our job as coaches to really help you get clear what it is that you want to be working on, and help you get clear about what are the best solutions for you. So it's can change too. You can start in one place in the coaching process, and that can emerge and evolve to a different place as you get clearer and clearer about what it is that you actually need to do. Certainly coaches do offer their expertise, but that's not where we start. We start with really helping you get clear about who you are, what's getting in your way, and what it is you really want. So as Greg and other people have indicated, it's our questions, it's our listening ability, it's really creating a space for clients to really get some air and take a look at what's going on. I get many people that I coach, they just hardly ever even get a chance to stop and think about what it is they're really working on and why they're working on it and if it's the right thing. So maybe go to the next slide, Greg. So as Greg said, when he posed those questions and asked you to write down your responses, it was to give you a sense of the types of questions, where we would start. And, you know, hopefully you took a few moments there to reflect. And this again is the same type of question. And you can see that first one is, what would success progress look like for you? And, you know, these are questions that, you know, typically we don't slow down enough to really delve into them. So that's the intention, is to really provide space and an opportunity for a person to really go in. We totally believe that people have their own answers, but they need a little support sometimes just getting there. And then what support do you need to move forward on the issues? This is another type of question we would ask. Again, always pushing you to find out what it is you want and what are you being really called to do that's going to give you that high level of satisfaction and enjoyment no matter what it is that you're doing. Okay, I think Greg, you want to go to the next one?
There's a little lag, so I was right with you. So, oh.
I know. So here's a poll. Again, we just want you to give a little thought to, you know, what do you think about working with a coach? Do you think it could be useful? You know, could it be helpful to you in addressing the challenges that you're currently facing? You know, we have challenges all the time. These are particular challenges. These certainly came upon us quite suddenly, and nobody could have even predicted how our lives and our businesses would be so upended within a couple of months. But here we are. So it's a major issue. And I know at least one person, I think maybe it was you, Tommy, said something about the whole notion of working remotely, and all of a sudden we're no longer in our offices. And I find in my coaching practice, where I'm working with a lot of leaders and managers, there was a huge period for 4 to 6 weeks where that transition to working at home was taking place. And once all the technical issues got set up, then it really became an opportunity to really look at what was working, what wasn't working about this. And, you know, I found leaders and managers bringing issues such as, how do I hold people accountable? How do I follow up? How to manage people who, you know, they're living in a variety of different situations. How does somebody work who's got 3 small children at home and only limited ability to have childcare? So, you know, those are all the kinds of issues that we were looking at. And, you know, it does call on leaders and managers to really tap into their compassion during a pandemic or during a time when everybody's struggling. So some of our typical expectations of our employees do need to shift. They need to be let up a little bit, perhaps, but that's also balanced by, what do you do when you have somebody who's historically a poor performer and now they're working remotely. So these are the types of challenges that I'm hearing about. So are we ready to look at the results, Jamie?
Yes, I've ended the polling, And the folks who responded to the poll said that either yes or possibly that they could see themselves benefiting from work with a coach to address some of the current needs associated with the pandemic.
Great. Well, super. Then we'll get this out of my view. Then we'd like to go back now to our offer. As Jamie opened the presentation, she discussed, this is a very unusual time. This pandemic has really put us all in a very different reality. And as coaches and coaches here in Maine, we want to support businesses. We want to support people. And we decided that the best way to do that was for us to offer our skills, our talents, a process we totally believe in, and to offer you all the coaching sessions, 3 hours of coaching to small business, any of the leaders and owners of businesses on this call. We are inviting you to let us know if you're interested. If you could do that by sending an email to Jamie, you can see it up there on the screen, jamiemorin@synchronypoint.com. And the one thing we would ask is that if you would just, say what it is that you would like to focus on. Now, you can do that at a high level. You can just say, I'm struggling with holding my staff accountable. Or I know a lot of people wrote motivation and support for employees and for self during this. So something at that level, just kind of give us an idea of where you're going to be looking for some support. Now, we will do our best to align your requests, your focus with a coach. But basically, we're going to do it on a first come, first serve basis. We have about, I think 24 coaches that have said they would be interested in providing this pro bono. And so we invite all of you, if you're interested, please send us an email and let us know. And we will get back to you and you'll have a coach assigned to you. So we're really hoping this will work for you and that it will be beneficial and that we can add some value, some support, some extra care for you during these difficult times. Because even as we get back to normal, where the sheltering at home is starting to lighten, I can see already that we have a whole new set of challenges that are being presented. So we encourage you to send Jamie an email and we'll take it from there. So I guess
with that,
Very good.
Yeah, with that, we'd like to invite any questions. If you'd like to come in live, please just raise your hand and I'll unmute your mic. If you've got a question that you'd like to type in the chat room. And I've put my email address into the chat box, so if you want to copy that. And some of you may have people within your organizations that you think could benefit from this offer of coaching to help them get through. Maybe you've got a leader who's struggling with some concerns associated with this. I have a client in Boston. I've got 2 clients in Boston that I'm working with the same organization, and one of them loves this. He doesn't have a 90-minute to 2-hour commute on either end of his day. He doesn't have to run his kids around at night to different sporting events. He is very happy and productive. The other one lives alone and is in a risk category and is very, very uncomfortable about trying to do her job and manage her risk and be alone, and is looking for help dealing with resilience and keeping her focus positive and her energy up during this. So you may have somebody in your organization that could be helpful, that you would find this helpful, and we'd be happy to extend this to them as well.
One question we haven't addressed that it was way earlier is, and I have some thoughts about it and other coaches can jump in, is how do you choose a coach? How do you find a coach? So I just have some things, like as far as have an initial conversation with a coach and see, was it helpful? You should get some value from that initial conversation, and do they listen? to you? Do they try to understand your situation versus being really formulaic, like you're a category? Because everyone has a different situation and it's very specific. So are they customized in your approach? And do they have a track record in the area that you want results in? That's useful too. So they've walked their talk, or they've done that thing that you're trying to do, is really important. And trusting yourself. What do you think about the coach? Because lots of times small business owners will use an expert and then forget to listen to themselves. Like, what do they think about it? Any other coaches on comments on how to find a coach?
Well,
Go ahead.
I would just say that I think in terms of finding coaches, you could go to the ICFNE website. You could contact us, Maine Coaches Connection. We have a list of coaches and know a lot of coaches. But I did want to just sort of make a comment about the fact that we're offering 3 sessions. That might not feel like it could make a difference, like what could 3 sessions offer me? So I did just want to say that, 3 sessions that are targeted and focused, which is what a coach will do with you, is really work with you to get clear about what it is that you really want to get out of those 3 sessions. And then really work to bring you to that point. So I think 3 sessions, I have just finished up a 3-session process with a woman who is making a career transition. And, she found it tremendously helpful just to have that opportunity to take 3 sessions and focus on a concern that she was having about the transition. And so don't underestimate the value of what 3 sessions can bring and the difference that it can make in your life. Greg, you had some comments?
No, that was it. I wanted to point everybody to the Find a Coach feature on the icfne.org website, and that's a great resource. There's probably hundreds of coaches out there, and like Carrie said, it's super important for you to narrow in what you're looking for. All of those things that you may not think are important, just everything that becomes good fit between you and your coach. And I think most coaches, every coach I know, is really very open and friendly about, if it's not working for you with me, then I'm going to refer 2 or 3 other coaches that might be closer to what your needs are. And that's really the space that we work in. And it's very collaborative. And I think you will definitely, I think if you interview 2 or 3, you'll really be able to narrow in. Whether it's a remote relationship you're looking for, that obviously opens up the lens on who you might be working with, or whether it's a male or female. All of those things become part of that relationship that you're looking for. And coach will help you also find the right one.
Well, I can say that we've had a few people already send me an email, so that's exciting.
Excellent.
And I know that the 24 coaches on our list are hoping that we'll stretch that resource. So, Carrie, I think you were going to make a parting comment.
I forget what it is, so I'm parting.
Well, thank you everybody for your time and attention and for your interaction. This was fun for us. And with that, I think we'll turn it back over to Tommy for any last words.
Yeah, thanks, Jamie, and thank you to all the coaches. This is usually where I'd walk in with a big round of applause for our presenters. It was an interesting and challenging presentation, having multiple presenters, but I think you guys did it excellently, and I personally got a lot out of it. I'm looking forward to following up with you as well. Again,